know you guys have seen them all over social media, those beautiful Arizona gardens that are just overflowing baskets of peppers and tomatoes, and it's what I dreamed about, honestly, when I first started gardening. Well, they don't usually talk about all the failures that add up until you get to that point. Hopefully you get to that point. They don't talk about the hundreds of dollars in dead plants or feeling of frustration that makes you want to just pave the whole backyard and just be done with it. But that's what I want to talk about today, is some of the mistakes that I made along the way, some that I could have totally avoided, and I'm hoping to help you sidestep, especially if you are just getting into gardening. So let's take a look and get started. Okay, so the first big mistake every hopeful Arizona gardener makes is treating a seed packet like it's gospel. You see that little map on the back, the one that says plant after last frost or suggest planting in May? In most of the country, that's great advice, but here in the low desert, it's a death sentence for your plants. And I'll never forget my first year. I was so excited. I had my neat little rose, shiny Neutrala, and a stack of tomato pepper seeds, and I waited patiently until May, just like the package told me to, and I planted my heart out. And then a few weeks went by, and then came June, and then came July, and before I knew it, my plants were totally struggling and baking in the sun and never even had a chance to produce a single pepper or anything. It was a lot of wasted effort, a lot of time and money. So here's what you need to know in order to avoid making that same mistake. So you need to embrace the Arizona planting schedule. It's a little different than the rest of the country. We have two main growing seasons, a cool season and a warm season. And if you think of it this way, our spring season is great for planting things like tomatoes and peppers, and it's really in late February and March. Our second big window, our fall season for cool weather crops like broccoli, carrots, and kale, kicks off around late September and October. And then August, which is right in the middle of the monsoon, is another key window for planting warm season crops that will produce in the fall. Now, your most powerful tool is actually a local planting calendar, and I have found that the University of Arizona's Cooperative Extension has a really good one, and local gardeners share theirs online all the time as well. So make sure to print one out, tape it on your fridge, and live by it. It is the single most important shift that you can make. And my advice to you is ignore the seed packet and just go with listening to the desert. So this next blunder comes from a totally logical assumption that the dirt in your yard is, soil. And it is in a lot of other places, but here in Arizona, what you likely have is some combination of compacted clay, some sand, and the infamous backbreaking caliche. It's rock hard and alkaline, and it has almost none of the organic matter that vegetables need to thrive. So I have to share this story with you guys. I know the first example that I learned this was actually a long time ago. I had planted my first carrots in native soil thinking like, yeah, this is gonna be great. I was so excited. I waited the time frame of like 6 months. I go to pull them out and it was nothing but these little short orange nubs. And it was really depressing and a bit frustrating, but also hilarious because it was a lesson that I learned. And let me tell you, that dirt was hard as a rock, and even just getting those things out was a pain. So don't recommend it. Make sure you prepare your soil very well if you are planting in ground. But for me, what I have found works best is raised garden beds that you can kind of control the soil climate and have a much better result on not having to fight with the clay and caliche and all of that. The solution that I have for you guys is you don't really amend the soil here, you have to create it from scratch. And I think that's why raised garden beds are so popular here in Arizona, because it gives you complete control over what your plants are growing in. So the goal is to create a soil blend that is rich, it drains well, and it also holds on to moisture. And a fantastic starting mix is a 3-part blend: 1 part high quality compost, 1 part of peat moss or coconut coir for moisture retention, and 1 part of vermiculite or perlite for aeration. And remember, you're trying to build a sponge, not a brick. So if you're gardening in the ground, you will have to dig out a big area of at least a foot deep and mix in massive amounts of organic matter. And I'm talking 4 to 6 inches of compost or aged manure tilled into your native dirt. And this isn't a one and done fix, because our sun is so intense, it burns through organic matter like crazy. So you have to add at least an inch or two of compost at the beginning of each planting season. And when you're trying to grow vegetables in unimproved Arizona dirt, it is like trying to grow them in a parking lot. And so build your soil first and then the plants will follow. Now you've seen this phrase on countless plant tags, requires full sun. And this is the third great blunder. Thinking full sun in Arizona means the same thing it does anywhere else. So here in the low desert, 6 hours of direct, unfiltered afternoon sun in July can be like a laser beam of death. It can scorch the leaves, scald your fruit, and stress your plants out until they just give up. I actually learned this the hard way with my peppers, and peppers are supposed to love the heat and the sun, right? But I gave them the sunniest spot in the yard where they got direct sun from about 10 a.m. till sunset, and by mid-June, the leaves had actually turned kind of like white and had patches of sunburn, and the peppers themselves even had these soft little blistered spots called sun scald. Technically, they were alive, but they were definitely suffering and they were not quite producing. I was giving them what I thought that they wanted, but it was actually way too much of a good thing. So my solution, well, you have to become a student of shade. It is almost as important as the sunlight here. So the ideal spot for a garden bed is a place that gets full sun from about sunrise until about 1 or 2 p.m. and then starts to get some partial or full shade for the rest of the hot afternoon. So this could be on the east side of your house, block wall, or by maybe a big tree. And if you don't have natural afternoon shade, you can always create it. This is where shade cloth becomes your absolute best friend. And it's a special fabric that they sell that usually runs about 40 to 50%. And this barrier can actually lower the air temperature, prevent sun scald, and dramatically reduce how much water your plants need. You can actually build a frame using PVC pipe or wood to have something to frame and place your cloth on. We actually did these metal posts that have worked really well for us. And I do feel very fortunate. I have my garden on the south facing part of my yard. We are actually right near some pretty big trees that actually provide shade in the afternoon. Well, believe it or not, watering causes more garden problems than just about anything else. And in the desert, the stakes are even higher. And our fourth blunder is a vicious 1-2 punch, watering too shallowly and also way too often. And it's such an easy trap to get into. You walk outside at 4 p.m. and the sun is blazing and your plants look dramatically wilted. Well, you panic, you grab the hose, you give everything a quick spray, and the plants perk up and you feel like a hero. But then the next day, the same thing, they're wilted again, so you water again. And I did this for a whole season. I was watering my garden almost every single day. And my plants never seemed strong. They were totally dependent on that daily shallow drink. And what I was actually doing was training their roots to stay right at the surface, where the soil is actually the hottest and it dries out the fastest. And so a weekend away or just forgetting one day could mean total disaster. The solution, or your new mantra, must be water deep and less often. And instead of a quick daily spray, you want a long, slow soak that gets the water down deep, at least a foot deep. And this encourages the roots to grow deep to find that moisture, and it creates a much stronger, more drought-tolerant plant. So how often is less often? Well, it kind of depends on the season and your soil. But instead of a rigid schedule, just learn to check. I usually will stick my finger down into the soil, and if it's dry, I go ahead and water, and if it's still moist, then I'll just wait another day. But for me, the best way to do this is actually with drip irrigation or with soaker hoses, because they deliver the water slowly and right at the base of the plant, which cuts down on evaporation. And finally, you have to cover your soil. A 2 to 3 inch layer of mulch like straw or wood chips is kind of non-negotiable. Mulch is like a shield for your soil, and it keeps them cooler, stops evaporation, and suppresses the weeds. So water deeply, less frequently, and always use mulch. It'll break the cycle of panic and create a truly resistant garden. So this final blunder is a crime of passion. You go to the nursery and you just want one of everything. And you get all your raised garden beds ready and you buy like 20 different types of seeds. And I'll tell you, it's a plan for burnout. And so my first garden, I had corn, squash, 5 different types of tomatoes, melons, beans, you name it, I had it. And at first, yeah, it was magical. And then I realized, like, well, the watering alone takes about an hour. The weeds are relentless. It just became a second overwhelming full-time job. And my source of joy actually started to become a source of anxiety. And by the end of the season, oh, it was a big of a mess and I felt defeated. So my advice is to start small. I cannot emphasize this enough because I feel like real success in gardening comes from building your confidence with small, manageable wins. Don't try to conquer your whole yard in one season. Just start with 1 or 2 raised beds or even a few large pots on your patio. And then you'll want to choose a few easy to grow plants for your first season in Arizona. Great beginner choices are things like green beans or sugar snap peas or radishes, peppers, and herbs like basil. Learn their specific needs and learn how to water them, feed them, and harvest them. Get to know the rhythm of one small, successful plot. And then when you get that great harvest from just 1 or 2 beds, the feeling is incredible. And it fuels your passion and gives you the confidence to expand next year. Starting small is, in my opinion, the secret to building a lifelong love for growing your own food. All right, so to recap the 5 big blunders, first, trusting the seed packet instead of a local calendar, trying to plant in native dirt, underestimating our sun, getting trapped in a shallow watering cycle, and starting way too big. Avoiding these pitfalls will save you from all of these common frustrations that make so many people give up. Every single gardener has a story of failure. Every one of us has a plant graveyard of our past. That failure isn't a sign that you can't do this. It's a part of the tuition. It's how we learn. So don't let it stop you. If this was helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe for more desert gardening realities. And now I want to hear from you. I want to hear what's been your biggest gardening struggle or your most spectacular failure. Drop it in the comments below. I would love, love, love to hear from you. And let's be honest about the challenges so we can all learn from each other. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you again on the next one. Bye.